Have you ever felt like you're always the second choice? Like you're waiting to be picked, waiting to be loved, waiting for someone to finally see your worth? That feeling of being replaceable, of being invisible is not because you're lacking. It's because you've been living in a world that never taught you how to be irreplaceable. From the moment we're born, we're conditioned to seek approval, to perform, to adapt. But no one ever teaches us how to become the kind of presence that others don't just want, they revere. No one tells us that in order to stop being an option, we must first start seeing ourselves as something rare. You were never meant to live in someone else's shadow. You were never meant to wait at the edge of your own life, hoping to be chosen. The truth is, the world has lied to you about your worth, and it's time you unlearn that lie. Because the first step to becoming a luxury is not in changing how others see you, it's in changing how you see yourself. And that starts now. Remember who you are, not who you were told to be, not the roles you've played or the masks you've worn to survive, but who you were before the world began shaping you into something digestible. Carl Jung once said, "Individuation is not about discovering something new, it's about remembering what you've buried." And he's right. You were not born to perform. You were born to embody. The soul does not speak in resumes, titles, or trends. It speaks in energy, in presence, in the quiet truth that hums beneath your skin when no one is watching. You are not here to become someone else's version of acceptable. You are not here to shrink yourself into something safe. Remember not to become a mirror of other people's expectations. You are not a reflection. You are the first light in a room no one else has dared to illuminate. This remembrance is not sentimental. It's radical. It's the act of reclaiming every part of you that was once silenced, dismissed, or forgotten. The parts that dreamt wildly. The parts that said no without guilt. The parts that knew, even in silence, that they were sacred. To begin this remembering, you must ask yourself not what the world wants from you, but what your soul longs to express. What stirs in your chest when the noise fades? What essence lives beneath the performance? Your archetype lives there. In the stillness, in the ache, in the instinct. It is not a costume. It is not an aesthetic. It is a frequency. One only you carry. When you return to that frequency, the world begins to shift, not because you force it, but because truth carries weight. So remember, not what you've done, but who you are. You are not here to be chosen. You are here to remember that you were never forgotten. You are not here to be everywhere. You are not here to be available on demand, easy to reach, easy to consume. You are here to be rare, and in that rarity, you become unforgettable. There is a quiet law that lives deep inside human nature. We desire what we can't immediately grasp, not out of manipulation, but because longing gives birth to reverence. What is always accessible becomes ordinary. What is measured and intentional becomes magnetic. You are not here to chase. You are here to choose. A diamond does not plead for attention. It simply exists in stillness, and the world bends toward it. You do not need to perform to be valuable. Your energy, when held with discernment, becomes the very thing that draws people in. The less you offer yourself casually, the more deeply others begin to crave your presence. Desire grows in absence. When you stop answering every call, responding to every need, showing up for everyone without hesitation, something powerful begins to happen. People pay attention. They slow down. They start to wonder what makes you so sure, so composed, so untouchable. Psychology calls this the scarcity principle, but at the soul level, it's something even deeper. It's not about playing games. It's about protecting your energy as sacred, and in doing so, teaching others to do the same. You don't have to disappear to be mysterious. You simply need to stop being always available. You don't have to withhold love to be powerful. You just have to stop giving it to those who haven't earned the right to receive it. You are not a common thread in every story. You are a signature woven into the fabric of something rare. Your time, your attention, your presence, they are luxuries, not defaults. So stop apologizing for your space. Stop explaining your silence. The people meant for you will recognize the beauty of your restraint. They will lean in, not because you chase them, but because your absence reminded them what presence truly feels like. There is a kind of presence that speaks louder in silence than in speech. It does not beg to be noticed. It does not reach out to be held. It simply exists intact, dignified, and untouchable. This is the power of psychological distance. To create space around yourself is not to push others away. It is to invite them to approach with care, with consciousness, with reverence, because anything always within reach is rarely held with respect. Think of a rare perfume, sealed behind a pane of glass. You cannot touch it. You cannot sample it freely. And because of that, you wonder, you imagine, you long. The same principle lives in human connection. When your presence is measured, sacred, protected by the velvet rope of self-awareness, others feel it. They slow down. They listen differently. Carl Jung said, "What you withdraw from does not mean rejection, it creates reverence." That space you hold is not a wall. It is a threshold, and only those who truly value you will be willing to cross it slowly. You do not need to over-explain. You do not need to justify why you need time, stillness, solitude. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of self-possession. A still lake draws more attention than a rushing stream. A locked gallery holds more value than an open hallway. Not because they are inaccessible, but because they ask the world to pause. And in that pause, meaning arises. Your boundaries are not barriers. They are containers for your power. They allow your energy to remain intact, your worth to remain undiluted. They teach others that your time is not on tap, your emotions are not for casual consumption. So let there be space between your words. Let there be silence between your appearances. Let people wonder, not because you're playing games, but because you've made peace with not needing to be everywhere for everyone. You are not here to be constantly reached. You are here to be consciously received. And those who are meant for you will know how to wait, how to approach, how to honor the quiet distance around your soul. You are not a brand, you are a frequency, a living, breathing symbol of something that cannot be manufactured or replicated. You are not here to serve a function. You are here to embody a truth. Most people walk through life trying to be useful, to fit into roles, to deliver results. But utility is forgettable. Identity is magnetic. People do not fall in love with what you do. They fall in love with who you are when you stop trying to be anything but yourself. Think of Eliza. For years, she called herself a designer. She blended in, checked boxes, delivered exactly what clients asked for, but no one remembered her. Until one day, standing in front of a sculpture in Florence, she felt something stir, not in her mind, but in her soul. She wasn't just arranging space. She was awakening it. She wasn't a decorator. She was a muse. From that moment on, everything changed. Not because she added more skills, but because she began to live from a different center. She stopped selling services. She started offering transformation. Her tone changed. Her presence deepened. Her clients didn't just want her work, they wanted her essence. You have that same power. The moment you stop identifying with your tasks and start embodying your archetype, the energy you emit shifts. You become specific. And in a world addicted to generalities, specificity is a form of luxury. You are not here to convince anyone of your worth. You are here to remember it. You are not a solution to someone's problem. You are a presence that changes the atmosphere just by entering the room. When you embody your archetype, whether lover, sage, sovereign, healer, you stop performing and start resonating. And that resonance cannot be ignored. It moves beneath language. It touches something ancient and intimate in the people around you. So stop selling yourself in pieces. Stop trying to prove. The real power begins the moment you decide to be the whole truth of who you are. Not a service, not a product, a symbol, a signal, a soul made visible. Luxury is not what you wear. It's what you carry. Not in your hands, but in your presence. Emotional wealth is what sets you apart. It's not about being hard to get. It's about being deeply nourishing to be around. Ray was a barber, good with a blade, clean lines, Smooth fades. Nothing extraordinary until something shifted. He didn't just cut hair. He held space. He didn't rush clients in and out. He listened. Not with answers, but with presence. Men sat in his chair and began to unravel. They spoke of their fathers, their failures, their fears. He didn't fix them. He witnessed them. He didn't offer solutions. He offered safety. What used to be a haircut became a moment of healing. He didn't try to be different. He chose to be real. He didn't sell service. He offered soul. And that choice made him emotionally expensive. You don't become a luxury through price. You become a luxury through depth. Your silence. Your steadiness. The way your energy fills a room without needing to dominate it. That's the kind of presence people remember. Not for what you said, but for how you made them feel. You are not here to be transactional. You are not a product to be consumed. You are a temple. And temples don't rush. They don't beg. They don't adjust themselves for the sake of visitors. They invite presence. They command stillness. They alter whoever walks through their doors. To become emotionally expensive means you no longer hand your energy to anyone who asks. You move with discernment. You offer your attention as a gift, not a default. And when you do that, when you become the person who makes others breathe deeper, think clearer, feel safe, everything changes. People may not know why they feel different around you, but they'll come back, again and again, not for what you give, but for who you are when you give it. That is emotional wealth, that is sacred value, and that is what makes you unforgettable. Language is not just how you speak, it's how you exist. Every word you say carries weight, whether you realize it or not. And the moment you begin to master your language, you begin to reshape how the world receives you. Most people speak to be heard. Few speak to be felt. Fewer still speak with intention. Your words are not filler. They are frequency. And when that frequency is aligned with your worth, it becomes magnetic. Stop saying, "I can't." Say, "It's not aligned." One sounds powerless, the other sounds clear. Stop saying, "I need to rest." Say, "I choose to rest." One begs for permission, the other owns the decision. When your voice slows, the world listens faster, not because you're louder, but because you're rooted. Authority doesn't come from volume, it comes from presence. Speak as someone who doesn't need to be validated. Speak as someone who is already whole. Let your words mirror your depth, not your doubt. This isn't about using big words. It's about using clean ones, honest ones, the kind of words that don't leak energy, the kind that land with quiet certainty. When you stop over-explaining, people start leaning in. When you stop apologizing for your boundaries, people begin to respect them. When you speak less, but with more clarity, your presence expands. You do not need to be poetic to be powerful. You need to be aligned. Speak like someone who knows their yes is sacred, and their no is final. Speak like someone who knows silence is also a sentence. This is how you become unforgettable, not just through how you look or what you know, but through the vibration of your voice, through the way your language touches people beneath the surface. Because when you speak like someone worth listening to, people don't just hear you, they feel you, and they remember you, long after the words are gone. Your space speaks before you do, before you open your mouth, before you make eye contact, before anyone knows your story. Your environment already whispered it. Carl Jung said, "The outer is a mirror of the inner." And it's true. The colors you choose, the way you organize, the objects you keep close, they are not random. They are symbolic. They reveal more about your soul than you realize. A handwritten note on textured paper speaks louder than 100 texts. Why? Because it carries weight, intention, texture, a signature. Just like you should. A clean space is not just about order. It's clarity made physical. When your surroundings are aligned with your essence, people feel it even if they can't explain why. Think about a home you walked into that made you exhale. It wasn't about luxury. It was about energy, about coherence. about the feeling that every item belonged, that nothing was there by accident. You don't need expensive furniture. You need resonance. You don't need perfect decor. You need truth, reflected back to you. Your environment should not be a museum of who you used to be. It should be a living gallery of who you're becoming. If your space still carries stories you've outgrown, it's time to release them. If your walls echo relationships, roles, or versions of you that no longer exist, it's time to repaint. Minimalism isn't about emptiness. It's about alignment. Every item in your space should answer the question, does this reflect who I am now? And if it doesn't, let it go. Let your wardrobe feel like your confidence. Let your desk reflect your clarity. Let your home feel like an invitation to breathe deeper. Because your space doesn't just hold your body, it holds your becoming. And when someone enters it, they should feel something shift, something calm, something honest, something rare. You want to be remembered. Don't just speak your identity. Design it. Build it. Live inside it. Because when your environment reflects your essence, you don't have to convince anyone of your worth. They feel it. The moment they step into your world. Stillness is not emptiness. It is presence, distilled to its purest form. The world has taught you to be loud to be seen. But real power doesn't need to raise its voice. It needs only to exist. Carl Jung understood this. So did the ancient mystics of the East. Power does not always arrive with noise. The most powerful presence is often silent. Stillness is not passive. It is active awareness without agitation. It is the refusal to rush, the refusal to explain, the refusal to react on demand. A river does not announce itself. It simply carves mountains, slowly, consistently, without asking for permission or recognition. That's the energy you hold when you are rooted. When your stillness is no longer a pause, it becomes a position. You stop being a reaction. You become a reference point. People notice. They won't always say it, but they feel it in the way your gaze holds, in the way your movements are deliberate, in the way you respond instead of react. Stillness is the rarest luxury in a world addicted to chaos. Most are chasing noise, mistaking volume for value. But you become a sanctuary, a contrast, a moment of calm that lingers long after you've left the room. There is an undeniable aura in someone who does not scramble for attention, who sits in silence, not because they lack something to say, but because they are enough as they are. Stillness teaches you to be present with yourself, to listen beyond words, to observe without the urge to fix. And that energy, it changes rooms, it shifts dynamics, it holds boundaries without raising walls. You don't have to dominate to lead. You don't have to perform to be respected. You only have to root yourself in the truth that presence is more persuasive than pressure. So sit deeper, breathe slower, let your stillness speak louder than your words ever could. Because when you become comfortable in your silence, others begin to hear you in a way they never did before. Not with their ears, but with their whole being. Detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. It is the quiet confidence of someone who no longer needs to chase what is not aligned. Someone who knows their worth so deeply, they would rather stand alone in truth than beg for a place in someone else's illusion. She doesn't chase. She chooses. She doesn't explain. She embodies. She doesn't seek to be understood. She lives in a way that makes understanding inevitable. Detachment is dignity in motion. It's the moment you stop proving, stop pleading, and start protecting your peace. It's when your love is no longer a performance, but a sacred offering given only to those who can hold it with care. Carl Jung once said, "The one who integrates their shadow no longer begs for belonging." Because once you accept all of who you are, the dark, the raw, the hidden you, no longer seek completion outside of yourself. You become the home you've been searching for. And from that place, love no longer becomes something you hunt down. It becomes something you allow to meet you, if it's ready, if it's real, if it respects the temple you've built within. Detachment is not about giving up on connection. It's about refusing to cling to what makes you feel small. It's about standing still when the world tells you to run. About trusting that what is meant for you doesn't need to be chased. She no longer trades her essence for attention. She no longer lowers her frequency to be understood. She sits in her fullness and lets silence do what words cannot. The truth is, when you stop chasing, you create space. And in that space, the right people appear not because you pulled them in, but because you stood still long enough for the right ones to find you. Detachment is not the absence of love. It is the refinement of it. It is the decision to give only when it nourishes both. And when you live that way, your presence becomes rare, your love becomes sacred, and your dignity remains intact.